Okay, I think we're live.
Hi everyone, welcome to our live. I hope your day is going well. Both Kasia and myself are very excited to be hosting this live today for a number of reasons, actually. First of all, to me personally, burnout and relationships is a very big topic because of my personal experience with burnout in my relationship. Kasia is a burnout prevention expert. I am mental health advocate. Perhaps we can start with a short introduction, first of all.
Let's do
Um,
it.
so, Kasia, do you want to start? Tell
Um,
everyone.
Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Kasia. I am well-being strategist, basically a psychologist with special powers to help people overcome burnout or prevent burnout. And that's what I'm doing. I'm also author of a book, Burnout Recovery Guide for Female Entrepreneurs. And yeah, that's what I do. Ella, over to you.
Some of you might know me already. I'm Ella. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a founder of Virtually Unbreakable, which is a company dedicated to creating easily accessible and affordable educational tools to improve mental well-being in families. I am also author of two books, Teach Your Kids to Build Positive Self-Image and Mental Health Guide for Busy Moms. And I'm a podcast host of Virtually Unbreakable podcast, where I invite my guests and publish fresh content every Wednesday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And today we are going to be discussing, as I've mentioned before, a very exciting and juicy topic, you could say, what to do not to let burnout ruin your relationship. So I think maybe, Kasia, if you agree, we should start with a short definition of burnout to remind everyone what this is really about, because I think so many people confuse it with stress. So it's just important to clarify a little bit what it is.
Yes, let's jump into it. So, for those who are still don't have the clarity, burnout does not equal stress. It does not even equal chronic stress. Burnout is a proper medical condition, legitimate medical disorder that is classified in the international ECD, that's the international disorder list, where, like, all the medical conditions are listed.
Mm.
So that it happened relatively recently, I believe in 2019. So uh, and it happened for the reason that there was more and more of these cases of burnout around the world happening. So that basically shows you how important it is. So when it comes to the definition and, like, how do we distinguish that,
Mm.
it is basically a result of chronic stress,
Mm.
which basically is a state of emotional and physical exhaustion, plus um, cynicism and self-doubt. So these
Mm.
are the distinguishing features, right? When we become cynical, when we basically stop caring about what we do, about our work, about everything else, and we become just bitter. That's how you know it is burnout, right?
Yeah, and actually, that's so interesting you said that because very naturally you moved into the less common symptoms, which is the cynicism. And
Mm,
I, before I met you, I would have actually never, it would have never occurred to me that being cynical and irritable and having little patience with others would be something that's related to burnout. Um,
absolutely, yeah. That's the thing. A lot of people who um, experience burnout do not realize. That's why my mission is to educate people, to bring that awareness, to bring this ability to recognize, like, okay, this is not normal, that I'm cynical, that I'm irritable maybe at work, or maybe with my partner at home, or maybe kids. So yeah, it's very, very important to just, yeah, have this awareness and know what's going on with you, because that is at the end of the day impacting your life, right?
Yeah. And absolutely. And I think most of us are probably guilty of, well, simply either not having enough awareness, self-awareness, and not enough knowledge about the topic. So we might all be at times a little bit guilty of being a little judgmental towards others, and seeing their behavior and their actions as their personality, right?
Mm,
Rather than their environment in which they operate 24/7. And
right.
this is where I feel this is such a crucial topic to discuss, because um, most of us, well, percentage I don't know, but most of us have important, significant relationships in our life, even if they aren't romantic relationships. And most of us would go about our day, not wondering, oh, is my partner type A personality, who is an overachiever, who struggles with setting boundaries, and just wants to impress his boss and is a workaholic? Most of us would go about thinking to ourselves, if we're in a relationship with that person, thinking, oh my God, he's angry, again he's stressed out. What have I done wrong? How did I deserve it? I'm so fed up with his attitude. Like, he needs to sort himself out, right? And of course, I'm talking about relationships that are not very at times. I believe every relationship is going through times when it's not at its happiest, it's not at its best. We all experience stress in our lives, we all experience times where the universe is testing us, you could say. And it's so easy to be judgmental, and it's so easy to be harsh on ourselves and our partner. But maybe going back to the topic briefly, because I tend to jump straight into the practicalities of how to help. But when does, from your experience, you work with so many entrepreneurs who experience burnout and other issues. When, from your experience, does it usually occur?
When it's too late.
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
there's, because yes, you are talking about prevention, about what to do, and there's so many things that we can do, but
Mm.
uh, uh, very often it is too late for prevention, and building healthy lifestyle and awareness and all these things. Basically, people I work with are already burned out, are already exhausted, and don't even know like what to do next in the next step in their life, like,
Yeah.
how to take it. And so they don't know why it's happening, they don't know what is happening with them. Very
Mm.
often uh, they go and they seek psychiatrical help because they already reached depression, right?
Mm.
So it
Mm.
can, that is in terms of results, where it can lead if you don't intervene sooner. Okay.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so
And
yeah.
you've mentioned that too, because we actually recorded a podcast about this some time ago. And you've mentioned it affects certain types of personalities more
Mm,
than others.
yeah,
So maybe we should mention quickly what type of people or personalities are most prone to burnout,
right.
because that might be helpful.
Okay. So it's pretty obvious, it's pretty logical that they are the type A personalities, meaning people who are overachievers, who are highly motivated, highly ambitious, who have this natural inside need of proving themselves, of being highly competitive, right? So
Mm.
they will be prone to burnout because the way they live their life is basically inhuman. Inhuman in a way that they do not respect their boundaries, very simple, very basic boundaries of giving your human body what it
What it
needs.
needs, yeah.
Things like sleep, rest, hydration,
Mm.
nutrition,
Mm.
and positive mindset. It's very simple.
Mm.
Yet a lot of people cannot deliver that because they are just focused on over delivering, on meeting deadlines,
Mm.
proving themselves. Therefore, they just take more and more workload. They over excel. They are usually the people who volunteer, who want to be seen as
Mm.
the best, or better than others, who constantly do everything because they want to prove themselves.
Yeah.
So, as a result of that, a lot of them, yes, they excel in their career, they achieve high positions. A lot of them will do very, very well in a corporate structures,
Mm.
um, because they just have very narrow vision. They have very little distractions. They purely focus on meeting the career goals, and they ignore the body. They ignore the signals,
Mm.
and very often they only wake up when something physical happens. For example, you are so tired you fall asleep, hitting your head on your desk, and then you break your bone, and then you have stitches.
Yeah.
This is the real story,
Crazy, isn't it? And I
right?
think it's worth adding that our culture really glamorizes the busyness.
Yeah.
So I remember distinctively Paul McKenna, who is a hypnotherapist, saying at the beginning of one of his videos, "We wear our stress like a badge,
Mhm,
and we are boasting about how busy we are."
mhm,
And it's not something we should be boasting about,
no.
but it became so normal to
Mhm,
boast about our busyness factor, about how many projects we are leading, how much bonus we have received, our promotions. And there is not enough significance and not enough uh, conversations about how important it is to find balance between career and personal life, and how to create the sort of routine, a daily routine that truly serves us and our families, instead of just pushing and pulling, right? Um
Absolutely. It's a very relevant point, and I want to add to it that it depends. Again, if you
mm,
look at this spectrum globally from the perspective of cultures, it
mm,
differs. We are living in London, which is exactly what you said. It's a hustle culture. In most of the cases, busyness is glorified. The same
mm,
be most of the northern and Western Europe, US, um,
yeah.
um, and then
Most of the developed countries, really, isn't it? I say.
well, if you look into Scandinavian countries,
Mm,
their values are totally different.
that's right. Yeah.
They don't have so many cases of burnout. Why?
Mm,
Because their entire culture focuses more on things that actually naturally prevent burnout. Things like
mm,
going out and doing activities in nature,
yeah.
things like going out with children to the forest, and it's deeply ingrained in their system,
Mm.
in the way you bring up the children, in the way school is involved in it. So, like for
Yeah.
example, you're a parent and you have a child in school and you don't participate in, I don't know, there are some competitions, there are some activities, sometimes during the weekend, you are being
Yeah.
looked at as an outcast. You
Mm.
really look down if you don't contribute to your immediate environment. And funnily enough, recently there was a well-being report, international report,
Mhm.
issued, and that confirmed that yes, the Finland, for example, is one of the countries that has the highest happiness score. And
Wow.
Finland has launched a program of, like, promoting happiness and well-being, and they
Wow.
basically
Amazing.
invite people and take them into a workshop that is being conducted in Finland, and they're showing, like, listen, this is how you can live your life, right? The problem
Mm.
is, if you want to implement it living, let's say, in London, it is your personal responsibility. The environment doesn't support it so much, so you have to create the right environment for yourself in order to really create this consciously.
Correct. Yeah. It's not so much promoted by the society and the government that we have here, I think I'll dare to say.
Yeah, you start to see, like, more and more statistics of, like, okay,
Mm.
it's 30%, next year it's 50% of the workforce are suffering from burnout, and then there's more and more depressions, and then there's more
Yeah.
and more suicides. So truly hope that the awareness will be bigger, and also more actions on the government
Mm.
level will be taken, um,
Mm.
because it's
Sure.
much needed. Yeah.
And we do know that actually burnout affects men and women slightly differently. So
Yes.
perhaps not so much differently physically, but the way we deal with burnout as two different sexes is slightly different. So,
Mm.
from my experience, I know that women are, and from my work, I know that women are perhaps a little bit more um, communicate and more open about their struggles. So we don't find it as awkward and as weird and as shameful as men to admit when we struggle with something, when we
Mm.
struggle with stress, with mental health, with our children, with our responsibilities, with balancing everything. Whereas I think the society has unfortunately, over the years and across different countries, has built this um, crazy, image of a man that is supposed to be always strong, always dependable, always reliable, working hard, never admitting when something's bothering him, especially in his own life, not so much at work, but his own personal struggles. And that stigma, that mental health stigma that exists in most societies when it comes to admitting to our struggles, is really not helping men. uh, and it really, I think it's, well, I'm not super familiar with the research here, but I would imagine that's very much connected with, unfortunately, the fact that men are more likely to kill themselves, to take their own lives. Can you perhaps outline, where do you see men do things differently when it comes to burnout to women, and how can we women support that, help them with recognizing the signs of burnout and helping them heal?
Mm. Well, yeah, I would agree with you. It's men will be much less vocal, much less aware. They will just think, like, okay, I need to suck it up, and but on a surface where you can observe, you will see that your partner as a man will become more snappy, more irritable,
Exactly.
less patient, less interested in doing the things that you used to enjoy doing together, plus being tired, emotionally disconnected. So if there is no other reasons, such as maybe sickness, such as,
Mm.
any obvious reasons that are happening in your relationship, then there is a possibility that we are talking about experiencing burnout here.
Yeah.
Yes. So as a partner, if you want to be supportive, you basically need to, like, evaluate this, like, maybe step out and look at your relationship from the outside, which is terribly difficult, because we are full of emotions, we're full of our own issues, and imagine you are struggling with your own things, your own challenges, your own frustrations, and then your husband is not helping. He is being irritable and snappy,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you're thinking like, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
So
Which
yeah,
is probably the classic scenario these days for most couples, actually.
yeah, I would have thought. I mean, I
Fortunately.
don't know, but I would imagine so, because
Mm.
of this very little awareness, and very little, and people tend to, because they don't have the emotional resilience so much developed. Um, you would quicker go into judgment, saying like, "Oh my God, you're so lazy. You're just watching Netflix all the time. You're not helping me out." So that avenue would lead to even further conflict.
Mm.
Whereas the other approach would be like, all right, I will look after my own emotions, and now from like a non-judgmental space, I'm going to enter the situation and look into the behavior of my partner and see like, oh
Yeah.
my God, what is happening? Maybe you are overworked, maybe this, maybe
Yeah.
that, like being patient, being open, being really
Mm.
non-judgmental, not critical. How many people actually can do that?
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Absolutely. I think it takes emotional maturity,
Mm,
and the connection
yeah.
um, with your inner being. I think it takes being able to put the emotions behind you, and from, like you said, a non-judgmental point of view, look at someone else and see their behavior for what do they need, what do they lack, rather than them being always angry or always snappy or always nasty or always prone to arguments. Because people, let's not forget, people behave in our behavior is our language. We communicate in different ways, and in relationships with others, we show certain type of behavior that often is dependent on what place we are at in life. So if we notice that our partner, whether it's a man or a woman, is displaying certain type of behavior that is not serving our relationship, is not serving themselves, but also our relationship and our family unit, it's really important to take a step back, um, and do whatever you can to center yourself in a way so that you become not do not join them on their level where they're emotional and you're emotional, because
Mm,
all that can happen there is a lot of fights and arguing and conflict. And try to take a step back, whatever that means, going for a walk, regular exercise or yoga, and come to them from the loving place, and say to them, we have decided we want to be together. I am here to help you. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on in your life. I've noticed you're really snappy. You don't have much patience with the kids. We argue much more. Are you under pressure at work? Is it something else? Talk to me. I I know from my experience that men need a little push to open up, and start talking and admitting to their struggles.
Mm,
They don't voluntarily go out and say, hey, I mean, there is a percentage of men that perhaps has that self-awareness and emotional maturity that would be able to do that. But I think probably on average, most men like to be seen as strong and, not weak. So I think if we come to from the point of view where we want to help them, we want to help, and by helping them, let's not forget, it's not that we are forgetting about our own needs. It's not it, it's not how it works in a relationship with another person, whether it's a romantic relationship or not. And the way it works is that you will be benefiting as much from your partner being balanced and healthy and centered as they will be. So
mm,
it's not that you are taking away from you to give it to them. No, you just are developing an ability to be able to step back and say to them, I'm here to help you, I'm here to support you without judgment. I've noticed you've been struggling. We're not in a great place as a couple. I don't think the problem is you. I don't think the problem is me. I think the problem is the environment we are in, that we might have consciously or subconsciously created, right? Because so often we go into our work routines and life routine and not fully 100% conscious. How much sleep am I getting every day? Is my diet healthy? Is my exercise enough? No. We all have pressure to make money, to raise our children, to pay our bills, to get to work on time. So we don't have that, most of us don't have the time and this mind space to be able to realize, um, you know, actually, I've been neglecting my health for a while, and this is why I'm feeling like that. Do you agree with that? I hope it all makes
yes,
sense.
and I think it's a great moment for you to bring your story because it's an amazing story.
Yeah,
Beautifully illustrating the journey of, of riding burnout
yeah,
and navigating through it from a pretty not promising place
mm,
to somewhere where you are actually like in your power, and even you can share. You've built it up amazing skill of navigating through burnout,
yeah.
self-awareness, self-discipline, and you can actually even help others at this stage. So tell us, how did you
Sure.
achieve that?
So I think it's really important to share stories like that because they can only help others as much as they can reinforce our own beliefs and our own learned experience. So I am someone who, like many women, fallen into motherhood, never really prepared. It's not something you can prepare for so much. It's something that I had lots of false beliefs that motherhood is going to make me super happy, and having a baby is the best thing that can happen to a woman. And I was going into it believing in all those things. And once my son was born, he's now 5. I have faced a very strong issues with adapting myself to the role of a mom. So I have myself been burned out as a new mom. At the time when I became a parent, my husband and I faced some financial struggles, which just happened to, it's a very bad coincidence. It just all happened at the same time when our son was born. There was a job change. My husband changed his job or career. And there was insecurity related to that. And of course, both of us didn't have enough sleep, thrown into the mountain of duties as new parents. And slowly, that burnout after long, and previously to that, I think it's worth to mention actually that we are both overachievers. So to add petrol to the fire, we are also both type A personalities, which is a crazy, situation. Perhaps a common one, I don't know, but I'm someone who is super ambitious. He's someone who is super ambitious, both working really hard and both believing that that's the way to live our life. And I think what happened is, to cut long story short, is that over time, the experience of being a new parent, changing your job, changing your house, and caught up with both of us in different ways. And when I felt I was depressed, I thought that my husband was just stressed out. And I saw him as someone who was at the time stressed out, whereas I saw myself depressed. And I think what it was, is I was feeling very overwhelmed as a new mom, and he had the pressure to make money for the family, quite simply. But because at the time we were not aware of what was happening to us, it grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And it became an unbearable issue where, my husband never spoke about this, but I felt deep inside, I can only talk from my perspective of what I felt and what I experienced. Um, I felt that my life just changed for the worst. And that's because I was feeling overwhelmed and burned out, and I didn't know what to do. And then a couple of really wise people that I came across on my journey as a new mom have advised me to look after myself. And actually, to me, that was a pretty new concept because, however, people mean look after yourself in different ways. But I'm someone who worked 10 years in the corporate companies across London, international environment, very driven. And I knew never, I thought I always looked after myself. But when you become a parent, your self care is 20 times more important because you need to be well to look after others. So, the first step you have to take as a mom is to invest time in looking after yourself, whether that means half an hour walk once a week, a daily yoga practice, or a phone call with a friend or a coffee with a friend. Whatever that means to you, you absolutely cannot neglect self care as a parent, full stop. If you do, I honestly, I think there's such a huge chance your relationship will break and your children will be the victims of divorce. And this is a bit of generalization, but I've seen in so many couples that I worked with and I know personally, this strong pattern of woman neglecting her own needs and not loving herself, not accepting herself for who she is, not being kind to herself, and not being harsh on herself, but instead giving into the myth of a perfect mother, and having developing the guilt for not being good enough, or developing guilt when you go to work, or you go out with the friends and you feel bad because your child stays at home. It's natural to feel that way, but actually it's very bad for you to adopt this way of thinking because it's not serving your well-being. And as a mom, and even not a mom, but just someone who lives with a partner in whatever type of relationship, you are there to support yourself and you are there to support others. And even if you don't have children, you are getting into a relationship with another person because you want to be happier, right? You want to share the life experience with someone, in a satisfying way. So, the shift for me happened when I realized that actually my poor husband at the time was allowed himself to get over slowly but surely more and more burned out. And I think, I'm not joking, it took me about 2 years to realize that his stress was in fact burnout.
And let me jump in here
Yeah.
and ask, how did you realize it? What made you realize it wasn't stress, it was a burnout?
Only when I developed a good self-care routine for myself,
Hmm.
which allowed me to be balanced person, which allowed me to act in a non-emotional ways, but in a wise, I would say, mature way, show emotional maturity. Only when I became that better person myself, that more mature version of myself, more composed, more balanced, I realized he really struggles and he's not talking about it. Instead, it just manifests in the way he behaves towards me and towards others. And when I that occurred to me that actually, I started reading about burnout, and it occurred to me, actually, I think he's burned out. I then ask him, how are you doing? Just tell me, what do you struggle with? I'm not here to judge. I'm here to help. And then he started opening up and talking about different aspects of his lives that he was struggling with. I realized, oh my God, I've been so blind. I have fallen into this, what in psychology we all always what is called cognitive distortion, right? When we see the other person as bad and we see our own behavior as circumstantial. So like, I am not bad person. I'm just stressed out today because my train didn't arrive on time, whereas he is the bad person.
Right.
I think that's what's called attribution error in psychology. And that's what I was doing. I saw his behavior as typical to him because of who he is, rather than um, his environment doesn't serve him. The environment he created and I perhaps co created is not serving our family. So by opening up and having, no judgmental conversation and coming from a place of service to him and our family, we have developed a better self-care routine for him, which is now completely changed our lives. I'm not joking.
Um,
We're in a completely different place as a couple, as a family, and that's because I had the patience to listen, and he had the courage to open up and talk, rather than like what's very common, just going down the pub and have 5 pints on Friday night and do the same thing on Saturday. Um,
Amazing.
so there is no magic there, but I think the story signifies the fact that once we look after ourselves first in a relationship and don't neglect our own self-care, we are in a better position to help the other person, right?
Yeah.
And have that awareness and be there for them.
Beautifully said, and I think it's a very, very valuable lesson learned there. And Ella, I'm so looking forward to discussing more about self-care,
Mm.
about the importance of uh, building your routine, and basically the ways of like how can you support yourself in order to then support others.
Mm.
And I think that's going to be our next meeting to
Yeah,
discuss,
really,
dive
I
into the
really look
details.
forward to it. This is such a big topic, guys. It's not, and it's not something that I feel like I've never ever watched a video or a really insightful conversation where somebody told me how burnout affects your relationship. So we are hoping to run a couple of those lives for you, to talk about my experience, to talk about Kasia's experience, to talk about our professional knowledge, and maybe actually next time dive a bit deeper into the cognitive distortions, and what we all do in our relationships and how it's not serving us.
Mm,
So it's been great sharing all this knowledge with you, and hope to see you soon again.
lovely. Thank you so much as well, and have a gorgeous day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye bye.